if you're thinking about retirement, it's almost a little overwhelming of like there's infinite things to think about and do. And I think it's important to consolidate that down so your head's not spinning around such a big situation. I'm going to stop working. When do I start withdrawing cash? I've got to worry about my home, kids? There's just so many things to worry about. So let's consolidate that down into 10 things that we can kind of stop the chaos of all the different questions circling around that. And so here we go. So the first one, be counted up. Second one is map it out. Third is paint a picture of your retirement life. 4 is lock in your income streams. I'll start with those quickly. The first one is, when I say count it up, you need to do an inventory of all of your different assets. That is the first step, and some people don't love to look at every different account. There's some comfort with head in the sand, but that doesn't really work when it comes to planning out the next 20, 30 years of your life. So it's really you, and if you have a partner, sitting down and counting it up and saying, oh yeah, we have this account over here, and oh honey, don't you have this old 401k over here? So you get an inventory of that. And then with that same inventory would be your real estate, not just your investment accounts, but your real estate and any sort of debt. So that is the first step we've got to do. We've got to be honest with ourselves about what we have and what we don't have, and then our liabilities. Second would be the thought around mapping out a retirement game plan. And this is one that I think just will calm everyone's fears down. And I've done a lot of research lately. I'm always studying happy versus unhappy retirees. One of the things I see in retirement planning is that it's pretty easy to do a retirement plan. And when you get to that stage where you're within a year, it's better to do it 10 years prior or even 20 years prior. But getting to retirement, it's pretty doable to do a plan. And there's great comfort for folks when you're getting into retirement to just get it done. And it doesn't have to be. So the industry will provide, whether it's a website or an online planning calculator or you sitting down with an advisor, a fiduciary that can help you map it out. The plans really work because they take in all the main variables that you need to understand. And then you're spending. So you've got that part of that inventory is, hey, what are we going to spend? And that can be just a round number. It doesn't have to be exact. It could be it needs to be directionally right. And then the plan itself accounts for an assumed rate of growth, an assumed rate of inflation, and puts all of those into a really comfortably clear way to figure out. And I think that reduces a bunch of anxiety. So I think mapping it out is number 2. And again, that can be pretty comprehensive. Your withdrawal strategy, your taxes, but that's all in number 2. Number 3, this is less about the numbers and more about painting a picture of your retirement life. I did this exercise with my dad and my stepmom maybe a year ago, or maybe let's call it a couple of years ago. And I was just visiting Pennsylvania, and on the refrigerator was her retirement roadmap, which I had them do in colored pencils.
Oh, very nice.
And it's a really fun exercise, is to sit down and think of the things that you want to do, all the fun things that you're looking forward to doing, all of your core pursuits, all of your socialization, family, friends, hobbies, core pursuits, I call them. And I almost like to do a map of the United States or the world, and you can point to where you want to go travel. And it's a really fun way to clarify all of the fun things you want to do. I call it just a retirement roadmap, but if you do it in colored pencils, it may end up on the refrigerator wall. That was pretty cool to see. This is my stepmom's. I don't know if my dad put his on the fridge. Number 4, lock in your income streams, meaning that income streams, and again, part of this may be in the planning, but they may not all be turned on, right? So you can have Social Security be turned on at any given point in the future up to the age 70, and you've got to make that decision. What about a pension from somewhere else? Maybe you have some sort of annuity that kicks in, or a potential I see this a lot, folks that don't have annuities, but their parents maybe had annuities, and now they've inherited that income stream. So spend some time understanding those income streams, because they're so important in retirement. They are they're kind of the lifeblood of spending without you tapping your investment account. So that's number 4 to me, is lock in your income streams. Number 5 is something you can totally control. And if you don't, I've seen this spin out of control. Number 5 is finish big projects, and particularly with housing. And this is super clear when you see somebody who retires. I've seen this. They retire and they say, well, we've got to have a little bit more time. So we're going to renovate the bathroom.
Oh, man.
Or we're going to renovate the kitchen. And it's not a big project, or we're just going to do the floors. And then it spins out of control. So it's not just a budget thing, which that's a whole nother story that can get out of control. Mm-hmm. But it's a project problem too. It's the floors, and it's the kitchen, the bathrooms. The next thing you know, you plan on spending $50,000 and it's $250,000.
Wow.
And you've stopped working. So you don't have time to cushion that and say, well, wow, we really overspent here, and maybe I'm going to work another year to kind of pay for that. So get the big things done before you know you're going to stop working. So the 1 to 2 to 3 years prior to retirement, get those big housing projects done. Number 6 is a plan. Craft a plan to kill the mortgage. It is well documented in our research that retirement levels of happiness go up when your mortgage is either paid off or payoff is within sight. Again, not everybody is fortunate enough to pay off the mortgage before you retire, but have a plan to pay it off in those early years of retirement. Number 7, get your healthcare ducks in a row. There's a huge jump when you go from having your own private insurance prior to age 65 to getting onto Medicare. When you get onto Medicare, you're going to need to get some sort of supplemental program. And when you get your Medicare supplement program, you've got to figure out, well, what doctors stay, what doctors are not in this plan. That will take typically meeting with someone that specializes within that space. Now, you can research it and pick it on your own, but I think it's super important to get with someone, whether it's a referral from your advisor but find a healthcare advisor and make sure that you've got the right supplemental plan for your state.
So I'm just curious about that real quick. A healthcare advisor, do you have to be really careful that it's somebody who's really not trying to sell you on one specific plan?
You know, what I see in that industry, and again, this is just in the Southeast, is that the healthcare advisors it's such a small, nobody's making a big fortune. They're not selling annuities. There's no giant commission when it comes to this. Do the healthcare advisors get some money to do this? Yes, they don't do it for free.
But they're kind of like, you want someone who's more of a broker who's going to look at many different companies. You don't want someone repping a company.
Options and supplemental options in your state. And again, I think it's a hard industry to be in. It's not like these people are making huge amount of money helping. I think it's not free, but I think it's an important service.
Okay.
Number 8. This is where you tune up your estate plan. And this can, again, before you retire, it's really important to make sure that even if you have wills, are they up to date? Maybe you did a will and your kids were young and now they're grown-ups. Things change. Beneficiaries change. The amount of assets you have change. So you're going to want to check this off the list of sitting down and making sure your will planning and your trust planning is in line with what you want if something happens to you and your spouse. Again, it's one of these things that'll swirl around in your head and give investment and I'd say financial anxiety until you get it done. And that'll take an estate planning lawyer as well to do that. Number 9, rethink your insurance. So you don't want to go into retirement without being properly insured. And that, again, it's a different phase of life. When you're in your 30s and you're trying to protect your kids with life insurance, maybe you don't need to do that anymore. Make sure your property and casualty insurance is up to date. Make sure you have some sort of umbrella policy when you're heading into retirement. The last thing you want to do is have some sort of weird liability for somebody that gets hurt at your house. So this is about protection. Insurance really is about protection. And it's something you need to check off the list. And then number 10 on my list to check off is the digital side. So do a digital, I don't know if it's digital detox or digital do a digital review and make sure that Your investment accounts all have dual authentication. Make sure that your bank accounts have dual authentication. Make sure there's a area where your passwords are somewhere safe, and whether it's in an app or someplace in the house, that if something happens to you or your spouse, you can make sure that you can still get into your bank accounts.
Or somebody else can. Yeah.
Or somebody else can. So getting some digital security and some, again, a lot of these are just getting our head out of the sand, facing up that we need to get them done. You go through that 10-point checklist, you're going to have a lot less anxiety when it comes to pulling the retirement trigger.